Give us a signal when we can start. Okay. Good afternoon. Here we are again in Union Square Park. We're not at the Mahatma Gandhi Sculpture Garden, but we're in the other section across the street from Barnes & Noble. I'm here for the final episode of this series of, final interview of the suite of interviews that we've been doing with Doc Stanley. This edition, we're going to deal exclusively with his career as a sports broadcaster, sports writer, and also his involvement in the world of entertainment. So I'm J. Bailey Morgan for New Millennium Oral History Archives in the city of New York. It's Tuesday, 13 April, 2021. Here we go, Doc. Once again, one of my favorite interviews. We can literally do this for about 400 more hours, but time permitting. But
yeah, sure.
That would have to be spread over several years. So we're gonna just talk about Doc's life in sports as a broadcaster, sports broadcaster, sports writer, and also he did a stint as stand-up, and also just the entertainment personalities that he's come across. So, yeah.
Well, all praise to Father God and the Son. Once again, honored to be here with you.
As always, this is always a lot of fun to be talking with you.
And
you're my neighbor.
Yeah, right.
On the Upper East Side, my neighbor.
And for years we lived next to each other and didn't know it.
I know. It took two Ukrainian tradesmen who own a shop to put us together.
Sam and Mike, only in America.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what do you want? So we started about NYSS Broadcasting School.
Right. So that was around. You started broadcasting school when you came out of.
Got out of Air Force in 1971. Later, I was astonished reaching and found out my buddy Joe DiMaggio was in the Air Force. 72 got out of broadcasting school. Met the late great Dr. Frank Bannister at then the radio station YouTube Blacknet Radio was here. Met him in Sheldon Leonard. He gave me the ammunition for my gun. Broadcasting school gave me the gun. He gave me the bullets. Gave me the press credentials for different events. And he always said, I want somebody to take my place. In fact, I remember one of my first interviews for him was interviewing Reggie Jackson and the A's.
This was all in New York.
Yeah, right, yeah. It was surprising that they wound up leaving New York. He said, how could you leave New York? So he gave me my first ammunition. I remember Reggie Jackson, going down to catch Hank Aaron in Philadelphia. My next mentor, next movement to radio, was with the legendary Hal Jackson. His great line was, "It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice." And Hal at WLIB Radio, 125 Lenox Avenue, legendary spot.
Legendary Master Ceremonies at the Apollo Theater.
Oh yeah, Apollo Theater, and it was Hal who made Palisades Park legendary. And he went up there, he started Smokey Robinson, the Miracles, Linda Ronstadt, the Rolling Stones, all those guys got their start with him. Stevie Wonder has him as a mentor. Everybody knows Hal Jackson, Sunday Morning Classic, So
he died in nonagenarian. He died in 94,
95, about
at the age of 94, 95, or 96, something like that.
Right. I remember
great Hal Jackson.
The day he passed, the great Larry Hardison, greatest Black American sportscaster, he said, Doc, I didn't want to tell you, because Hal was like a father to me. He was a mentor. It was Hal Jackson who got me in the police department. I was jokingly talking about a friend of mine said that you should take the police test. I see Hal's face now. He said, hey, there ain't no security in radio. And him and the chief, Frank
Security in any number of
but fine. Yes. So then that was step number 2. And I loved doing working with their media head, Dave Lampel.
Right.
David Lampel.
You also wrote for some newspapers.
Oh, well, I had, the start was the legendary Big Red newspaper. And Eda McCrae did the
Which
story.
is now the Beacon.
The New York Beacon, right.
New York Beacon, which comes out on Thursdays.
Mr. Underwood, who is related to the actor Underwood. And
Blair Underwood?
Yeah, Blair Underwood. He Blair Underwood's uncle. Mr. Underwood was
So
black. Okay.
you know all the different interlocking.
Yeah, that was it.
connections,
So because it was happening. Anita McCrae did a story called Teen Directions, and look at Anita's story. I looked at the paper.
Edie,
And there was no sports in there. So I asked if they want sports. She did a story on me. I did a story on my cousin. They went to Columbia, the great boys' high school basketball, collegiate star Ricky Free. So I started writing for the legendary Big Red newspaper. And you really surprise the people who read the paper, because I did a story on Roberto Duran, and some of the Panamanian guys saw this story and said, we keep your eyes on it. Little did I know that we would become friends too. Big Red News turned into the New York Beacon. At the time, I wrote for a paper called the New York Age, which was, like you told me, that there was a tabloid. The late, great Dick Edwards, who was the sports editor of Black Sports Magazine, which also had a gentleman by the name of Brian Gumble, who started out at Black Sports Radio. Brian Gumble, along with the legendary Carl Nesfield, who was Malcolm X's personal photographer. So I wrote for the Age and wrote for the Beacon. Then, upon my retirement, the Ward Phillips.
So this is all near the end of your.
Well, no, I started writing for the New York, the Big Red News in 1976. One of my first stories was about Pelé, who I got a chance to meet, and Dr. J, who was going to the.
So you met Pelé and interviewed him.
Yeah. I talked to him.
At that point, he was
here.
He was here playing for a soccer team.
What happened? They had
the Cosmos.
Coney had a press conference for him and Franco Harris. They were guys who wore the sneakers, and it was a 21 club too. And I was impressed by the horde of media and the fact that it was in the 21 club, and that the guys were fighting together. Only Ali draws this kind of attention. You know what I mean? And I went to take a picture with him, and little did I realize that he would remember me. I met him again. He called me Migo. In fact, the last time I saw him, I was saying, realized that I had met with him one and one at the two greatest athletes of the 20th century. You know what I mean? And he spoke a lot more English than I thought.
What's funny is that we used to have this debate. Well, I was dragooned into that.
Maradona and Pelé?
No.
Oh.
Even more contestable. Meaning, people get passionate about this. The other person was saying that Ali was the most visible. Yeah. But we're also saying, well, because soccer is a truly global sport.
Football.
Football or soccer. Football as it's called elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's called soccer here in the States, but elsewhere in Europe and elsewhere it's called soccer. But soccer is a universal sport, and you don't have to be tall or short or
if Ali was in front of Pelé was right there. The only thing that made Pelé maybe right there was because of the infusion of the sport wasn't as it is now in America.
Right, but it's just America. But elsewhere, everybody else.
The whole world knew Pelé.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
And also Ali was known all over. For different reasons.
I always said that Ali's global appeal was because that took him to a whole nother level of recognition.
Right.
Ali and Pelé
as a follower of Islam.
Yeah, because that took him global. Right. Took him out here and
although he later became part of the real global Islamic community. Nation of Islam, black separatists.
But the fact that
larger Islamic community doesn't recognize it.
Well, the fact that he accepted, people understand. Ali was into Islam before he met Malcolm. Ali was into Islam back in high school. So it wasn't Malcolm that brought him into the nation.
Well, Malcolm did bring him into the nation.
He didn't bring him into Islam.
Right.
He was already in Islam.
That's right.
He was already in Islam.
And Islam has a presence here in America, and it goes way back. People don't realize that. It goes, in fact, it goes back to several.
Can we say
some
that
of the slave work came out of Islam?
People said that those who came with the slave ship,
like in Georgia and I believe South Carolina,
Islam.
Yeah, they could trace. It didn't evolve into large communities like the Christian community.
Because it was submerged and there was repercussions outside of being a Christian.
Yeah.
But
so just to stay on the sports side for a bit.
Sure.
Who are some of the names that you came across during your sports writing?
You know what? I tell you, man, I was blessed by God.
Reel off some of the
I've
names
met
for the listeners.
Joe Louis. I had to think about Joe Louis. I should know this. Joe Louis. You talk about legendary names. Joe Louis. Boxing fans. Bojack, Kid Gavilan. Okay. Of course.
Boxing fans.
Boxing fans. People. Bojack. The legendary Bojack.
I'm thinking about the baseball player and football player.
We met him, but boxing wise, I got a chance to go. All the great, I should have worn the jacket. The great fighters out here.
Jesse Owens as well?
Jesse Owens was the first legendary figure I met at the Garden at an event where they were trying to promote pro track. And Mr. Owens was there. And I'll never forget the interview.
In his 80s, right?
Yeah, about 70s. And I remember he said,
he was in the U.S. Olympics in 1936.
Yeah, right. Because, I'm doing him in 72, 73. So he's 60. And I remember he said, well, Mel, like he knew me for years. Jesse Owens, Joe Louis, who refereed the Jerry Corey, Joe Frazier fight. I met every great. Joe Louis refereed the Jerry Corey, Joe Frazier fight. Joe lost.
I know Ali for Jerry Corey.
Joe lost Ali that January. Joe's comeback fight was against Jerry Corey in the Garden that June, and he beat him.
Well, you got to mention the years because.
1974. 1974, yeah. Because the second Ali.
That was the second Ali fight.
Second Ali Frazier fight was January '74. Joe lost to Ali in January, and he fought Corey that summer and beat him. The referee was Joe Louis.
You know what's so sad about? And there were three Quarry brothers. These are Irish American boxers. And what's so sad? All three of them wound up being pretty damaged. I don't know if you knew that.
You know, it was two that they had a night.
I think it was three. And then
I remember two.
And then Jerry was the person that everybody made a comeback on. Ali made when he returned to boxing after having his license book.
Jerry was good though. Jerry was a good fighter.
But I'm just saying, people made their two great fighters. Joe Frazier made his second comeback after the loss.
That was Jerry's problem. Jerry was fighting in the core of the great era of the great fighters.
Right.
Jerry's around the day heavyweight champion of the world. You know what I mean? So I mean, you have to understand that. And Corey, I mean Joe. I mean, look at other names now. I met every black athlete, except Jackie Robinson, who come to our church. I saw Jackie play. He passed away. Jesse Owens, Satchel Paige. I'm waiting to go to the Ali Foreman fight, waiting for my press to and walk Satchel Paige.
So you mean you didn't go to Zaire?
No, because I'm in the police. I couldn't go. I was in the police academy, graduating the next day.
So you saw that closed circuit TV.
Right. Well, I didn't see it because I waited to get my credentials, and then comes Satchel Paige, and Ali had knocked out Foreman. So I saw it later on because it was all over New York. 42nd Street, every day they had to fight. It was a huge fight. There's Satchel Paige, because there's Willie Mays, there's Hank Aaron.
So let me ask you, what's the difference? What sort of characteristic differences are there between the athletes of the 60s and 70s that you met and the athletes today? I mean, those athletes didn't have that kind of money.
No, they didn't have the kind of money, but they were. I said the biggest thing in athletes yesteryear and today is that guys today are bigger and strong, but they're not as fundamental as sound. Okay, like in basketball, you got a point guard and a shooting guard. One guy asked Oscar Robertson one time, who's the greatest all-around player, he said, Oscar, if you was a guard today, would you be a shooting guard or passing? I said, I'm a guard. Joe Dumars, when he joined the Pistons, they said, are you a point guard shooter? I'm a guard. In my day, how could you be a guard? Yeah, how could you be a guard when you can't dribble and no jump shot? So, they talked about that. There's no longer infield and outfield practice in baseball. Where guys hit the cutoff man. So the guys didn't make the money they do now, but they were far.
Isn't it amazing when you think about, let's say, some of the players who played on some of the big teams in the mid to late 60s and even going into the early 70s. During the off season, some of them were, used car, car sales.
You know what? The big key to being a Milwaukee Brave was that the white guys, they got off-season jobs as car sales. And you're talking about that. I remember listening to a baseball game. Here's a fly ball to right field, and Maris has it goes to Richardson, and Bill Safford has his second out inning. Safford, in the off-season, he's a sheriff. Bill Safford was a sheriff. Yankee pitcher was a sheriff in the off-season, man. There are very few guys who didn't have an off-season job because you didn't make that kind of money.
It's just staggering when you think about it. I mean, it's completely unbelievable when you think about, in recent years you've had the Yankees buy, and I don't know that much about sport, but the Yankees buy a contract by what's the Dominican Alex A-Rod's contract.
Alex Rodriguez,
contract from the Houston.
Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
He had a contract for 10 years, $24 million.
Yeah.
The Texas team was paying off, and then they traded him to New York.
And I mean, it's like I said, $100,000 was a lot of money back in the old days, but you know things change. But you look at it, what Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio made, and speaking, let's not go just black athletes. Got a chance to meet Ted Williams, befriended by Joe DiMaggio, my buddy Larry Bird. Every great black athlete.
I know you always say your buddy Larry Bird. So you found Larry Bird just to be a nice guy.
Larry Bird is very candid. He's one of the greatest players ever. Larry's good people, and you know, and I gotta say, every brother and his brother, everybody in the boat. I remember Larry. I'm a collector. DocStanleySports.com, that's my site. And
say it again. Stand over there and say it again.
DocStanleySports.com. DocStanleySports.com. Hit the site, leads you to my memorabilia collection and to my radio show. By the grace of God, I've got some stuff that I've donated.
You have a big memorabilia collection? What's the value of it?
I think it's worth a couple million. I got a boxing jacket that's $1 million jacket I said. When I worked, Don King hired me to work with him for the Tony Tucker fight. And out there, we all got these one-of-a-kind jackets. And I asked Tony to sign my jackets. They called me Point. I was the first security guy out. I messed the jacket. In the interim, I had 2 boxing gloves to put in the back. Ali, there's not a heavyweight champion you can't name from the 20th century and say that's not on that jacket. There's not a fighter you.
Jack Dempsey?
I'm talking about guys that from the 70s that fought, not Dempsey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The old-time guys I have.
20th century.
I've said it. The 2 old-time guys I have is Bojack, Kid Gavilan, and Joey Giardelli. All the modern-time guys you have there. I got Holyfield, I got Tyson, I got Lennox Lewis. You know, I have, of course, Ali. I got Frazier, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Foreman, Holyfield.
So let's talk about the boxing. Who's the nicest? So many of those guys are really nice people and decent people.
Boxers I found to be the greatest of all athletes, and the best of them all was Ali. I mean, and I'm talking about he's the best of a great bunch. Mike Tyson met my daughter when she was young. They both took it. Anytime I see him, he asks how my daughter's doing. At the same time, too.
Sorry, we're interviewing outdoors, so
don't worry
we're here al fresco. So every now and again, people will just walk by. It's New York. Nothing to be done about that.
Yeah.
We've decided to do it outdoors.
They're the best. If Mike is walking in the crowd, he'll see, hey man, my nephew say he always asks about me, always asks about my daughter. I tell him she's 30, now my girl is 30. I remember I was flabbergasted because Peter McLean, a friend of mine who's an agent of football players, and he's from Scotland in Brazil. He said he was at an affair in Scotland or Germany in Holyfield, and he said, you know, I know these things kind of happen, but you know, I just want to ask you, you know, I have a friend named Doc. He said, Doc Stanley. Everybody knows me. He said, Peter, how do you know Doc Stanley? You know what I mean?
But did it strike you as being unusual that would be, let's say, the event is in Scotland? Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
You know, part of the times I'm in the UK.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Mike Tyson was in the UK. I was at a dinner. And he was there at the boxing awards. You have more boxing events than happen, and then you would see the States.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have, I mean, you probably have boxing writers.
We have part of boxing.
But over there, it's a kind of convivial sort of affair. It's very kind of friendly, you know, fun gatherings, and you know, the British or the English are so involved to have these associations and guilds, and they take their clubs and you know, so seriously. So they have a lot more things than I would even say you see here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because think of it, Scotland. Why would it be in Scotland?
He was.
Scotland not a mecca for boxing.
No, well, the thing that got me was it was overseas in America, and he said, you know, and he said, yeah, I know Doc Stanley. What do you know Doc Stanley? And Ali was the best of all of them, man. you know, he was big to magic tricks.
That's right.
He was doing some magic tricks for us one time.
Break out a magic trick.
And he was doing some magic tricks, and then he took us all to this table with a picture with flowers. And come here, everybody, he says, when you count to 3, I'm gonna levitate these flowers off the table. So
I don't even think that passerby knew that there was something being filmed.
So we go 1, 2, 3, and Holly said April Fool. And he was, I mean, he always had time for order, picture, service to others, and rent you pay for your room. We're at a boxing dinner right now at one evening, and now you know everybody can autographs and things. I have files for the guys. Okay, check for the guys. Hey, I don't leave till everybody gets there. I had a young lady I was dating, and I got to meet his right-hand man, Marty, so I always knew he was in town. So I was going that night to the fest. And champ, what's the champ? Could you sign this picture of the lady for me? He said, she's a fox. He said, what you doing with a fox? So boxes I found to be the most easy to reach. Ray Leonard, you know, he always called me Melvin, not Doc Stanley. So, and I just remember Duran. I had no idea until I went to a Latin affair press conference, and Steve Farber, the legendary boxing historian, who's now
and if we stand over here,
who's into
people know that we're doing an interview
in the Boxing Hall of Fame. And I remember Steve told Duran, he says, I never saw you fight. So describe yourself to me. And one of the great honors, Duran said, ask him. Ask him. You know what I mean? And he told, you know, some people, they said, you know, this guy, you know, he always calls me Cholo, which takes me back to a special important time in Panama.
I was born in Panama. It's so funny here.
It comes to all my fights. You know what I mean? And yeah, you know. So when athletes tell you that they don't read the papers, that's nonsense. They do. They know. I remember leaving the.
Of course, they read their clippings. Everybody.
Well, yeah, but they have a problem with New York sports writers.
Most people read their clippings.
Yeah. I mean, because it keeps them aware. I'm leaving the Mets locker room, talking to Darryl Strawberry, and as I walk past Darryl Strawberry's locker and I'm heading out, David Cohn says to me, "Hey Doc, that's a nice story you wrote on Darryl." They know. You know what I mean? And they like the fact that you stay positive with them. And like I said, so my favorite and the best have been boxers. A lot of people think that's my forte as a sports writer. That's my sport. But like I said, you name somebody, Ken Buchanan, who Duran beat for the title. I met him. Esteban de Jesus.
Must have been a nice guy. Irish.
Well, look,
he's a top lightweight.
He was a lightweight champion.
Was he
champion.
What Duran beat him?
That's the one Duran beat. Buchanan beat Laguna.
Ismael Laguna, another Panamanian.
Took the total. In the locker room, Duran told Laguna, I'll get the title back. And after interview, Duran said that was his toughest fight because of, what I had on my shoulders, what I had to do, and it made me champion. But Duran, Esteban de Jesus, Alfredo Benitez.
Did you ever see Ismael Laguna fight?
No. He never fought. I got Salvador Sanchez, Aaron Pryor. As far as fighters, I just about met them all. Baseball players, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Sandy Koufax, the great Juan Marichal, Pedro Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr., A-Rod, Derek Jeter, who became the first black Yankee captain. Actually, he was the second. Willie Randolph was co-captain for a while as a Yankee.
So now you got onto baseball. So let's quickly go on to, because we have time limitations here. So baseball. What? How many teams? You covered the Yankees.
Yeah, well, as a sports writer, I was blessed by God. Being in New York, we got two teams, so I was able to cover the Yankees and the Mets. That's how I got a chance to meet Joe DiMaggio. Got a chance to meet Mickey Mantle. Because you had the old timers there, Clint Boyd, Nelson Howard, guys I saw as a kid. As I grew up, I saw them too. Ted Williams, sitting there laughing and talking with Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski. You know what I mean?
Carl Yastrzemski was on
Boston Red Sox. Yeah, just left field. So I know.
And Ted Williams must have been old when you saw him.
Yeah, with Ted, because now you figure it's the 70s, so Ted is in his 70s, and we had a couple of fans. He was there. Arthur Ashe, the Williams system when they first came here. Yeah. They had a big thing at Rockefeller Center. Larry Hodges took us there. But in meeting Ashe, I also met Bjorn Borg, and I think Sugar Ray Robinson in tennis, like John McEnroe, Gerolaitis, Stan Smith, who you talked about.
Sneakers I'm
Yeah,
wearing.
yeah. Chris Evans, when she was carrying tennis, Billie Jean, who passed the mantle on to Chrissy, Martina, you know what I mean?
Speaking of Stan Smith, he's a wonderful guy. I was at a dinner, a big, fundraiser event about 2 years ago, and he autographed a number of these footwear for folk, because he designs these wonderful, fancy tennis footwear. They're sneakers, and you could wear them with anything, whether.
Yeah. What you are. Well, you're always stylish anyway. So if you wear them, that means you're in style.
Yeah, but he signed so many. He didn't sign this one because he had signed enough, and he had to vamoose. But what wonderful person. I don't know that much about tennis. I know about sports glancingly. It's been a long time. I mean, I stopped following sports when I was about 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell you, you have a lot of. Earl Monroe was an outstanding tennis player. A lot of people thought he could go on the circuit. That's not good Earl was. Earl Monroe was a really good tennis player. Earl the Pearl Monroe, another one of the greats I met. Walt Frazier.
He has a condominium up in Harlem.
Earl the Pearl.
Unbelievable.
You got Willis Reed is another buddy that befriended me.
He said Earl could have gone from the Black Jesus from Philadelphia.
I remember. With me and Julius, and I say Julius, I'm talking about Julius Serby. Eddie's always Eddie Murray. Andre Dawson called me today to the Great Hawk. When he retired from baseball, only him and Willie Mays had ever hit over 300 home runs and stole up 300 bases. But me and Julius were starting to learn tennis, and Julius was telling me, he said, Earl's good. Earl could go on the tour. That's how good Earl was a tennis player. And I remember Earl, when I first started, you're kind of novice. Earl said, maybe hit some time. Earl said, you may miss something.
I know his wife and his daughter.
Yeah.
I gotta ask Earl about that.
Yeah.
I spoke to him.
Very humble guy.
Oh yeah. He was sitting in his car, just waiting for his wife. His wife was at an event I was at. His wife said, Earl was outside, so I went outside and talked.
A lot of people think he's the best player
of all time.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the best player he played against. He said, I remember I was up in the Ruckers, and this guy came out. He said, when I came out, he had his whole, the black chick said he had one white snake on, one black snake on, said made this impossible pass to a guy in his face. Earl Monroe. They said Earl Monroe did on the ground what Dr. J did in the end. And Walt Frazier said, in guarding Earl, see, if I'm guarding Oscar Roberts, I know Oscar's going to try to come and back me down. Jerry West was looking for a jump shot. He said, every time down the floor, it's a whole new deck with Earl. It's a brand new deck. They asked him one time, how do you guard Earl Monroe? He said, Earl don't know what he's going to do. How am I going to do it?
Yeah, I think I followed the Knicks up until about 73. So I actually, I am one of those people who know the Knicks is a two-time world championship team.
69,
there are
70.
people who are about 49 and they've never seen the Knicks win a championship. Because it's been about, 48 years?
The last one was 73.
Yeah, 48 years since they won a championship.
Right.
So, you could have been with the Knicks all along, as so many people have been, and they've never seen the Knicks become
but too,
it's amazing.
It was a better quality.
It's actually embarrassing, too. It's a major
game,
media market, and you have a team that can go for almost a half a century without winning. That would happen in
but JB, what says
and it doesn't stop. We don't have to worry about it because whether the Knicks lose, it's apparently become some kind of situation where courtside tickets are $5,000 or $8,000. So they have no incentive to win.
No.
But I've never seen that. I always say I've never seen in any walk of life where there's no incentive in winning. If that team loses for another 50 years, they'll still get.
The players have a sense, but New York has got that tag. It's perpetrating fraud. The most intelligent fan, and not just some of those racist fans, but they got that tag.
But I know.
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah. I'm saying to you though, have you ever seen a team just get rewarded? They're rewarded. There's no.
Well, the key too is
half a century in a major media market.
You know what? But the best players who play basketball come there, so I get a chance to see. I get to see Michael.
Okay, but you're saying. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah. But have you seen a team in a major media market? The Lakers, the Pistons go for nearly a half a century without winning? Come on, that's fascinating.
That's true.
That's fascinating.
Listen,
I always joke that we
had a chance. Pat Riley blew it for us. 3-2 lead against Indiana, and he goes down there, and nobody talks about that. What a great coach Riley. We had a 3-2 lead against Houston. You go down there and you lose.
All I'm saying is that they've never won. You know, they haven't won a championship. They're one of the richest teams. Never won a championship in 48 years. And I'm just saying, there's no penalty.
You're right.
I mean, have you thought of that? I always think about it.
Yeah,
I'm not a big sports
the
fan.
NBA has no problem with that as long as the Knicks keep selling out.
Right.
They have no problem with that.
Yeah.
They're making money.
That's clear.
Yeah.
I mean, courtside tickets are probably, you know, this season just started after, we're still in the pandemic. This
That's
season
the
just
bottom
started about a few weeks ago. Well, they just started having
You
fans.
got to wrap up?
How are we doing with time?
We should probably start wrapping up.
How are we doing with time?
We should start wrapping up soon.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we got to end with this coda. Our final point.
Football, Jim Brown, Joe Namath, Gale Sayers, greatest running back of all time, Tom Brady, the greatest defensive player of all time, Lawrence Taylor. And also, we have a pair of autographed Lawrence Taylor game used spikes in my sports endeavor.
So for the listenership and the viewership, Doc has already given you the site where you can go.
DocStanleySports.com.
And take a gander at his memorabilia site.
Yeah, we have only 2 pairs of sneakers Michael Jordan ever scored a triple-double in. I took a Babe Ruth bat that I got modeled, and I had it autographed by home run champions. Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, all-time home run king, Frank Howard. Frank Robinson only played to win MVP in both leagues, and the only black player to ever win the Triple Crown. He's on the
Not only that, a manager. I think it was a manager player.
The first black manager.
And
what?
player.
And now, I'm glad you said that, because the first game he won and managed, he hit a home run to win the game.
Unbelievable.
Only in America, baby.
So here we've been with the legendary Doc Stanley. We thank him for his time, doing yet another edition for New Millennium Oral History in the city of New York. We thank you. Thank you, Doc.
Hey, God bless you. Trust God. Hey, the honor's all mine. Thank that man behind the camera too, baby. Shout him out.
We not only thank him, but he has credit.
Okay. Trust in God.
He has credit. When the credits roll, his name is there.
Okay.